Southeast Asian maritime nation and city-state known as the Republic of Singapore. It is located off the southernmost tip of the Malay Peninsula, 1 degree of latitude, 137 kilometers or 85 miles north of the equator, and is bordered to the west by the Strait of Malacca, to the south by the Singapore Strait, to the east by the South China Sea, and to the north by the Straits of Johor. One main island, 63 satellite islands and islets, and one offshore islet make up the country's territory. Its total area has grown by 25% since the nation gained its independence as a consequence of massive land reclamation initiatives. It ranks third in the world for population density. Singapore has 4 official languages: English, Malay, Mandarin, and Tamil. The country has a heterogeneous population and recognizes the need to protect the cultural identities of the different ethnic groups that make up the country. The official language is English, and many government services are only offered in English. The Constitution explicitly recognizes multiracialism, which continues to influence national policies in housing, politics, and education. The geology of Singapore is rich in granite. Actually, the name Pulau Ubin means granite island in English. Despite Singapore's dearth of natural resources, our island's granite is plentiful, which is another reason why quarrying activities began in the 1900s. More than 20 quarries were providing granite for the construction movement by the 1960s and 1970s. While the most of the granite quarries have been filled, several still exist today and can be visited. You can even hike the region around the quarries. Over the years, quarries like Hindhead and Bukit Batok have been filled with rainwater while Dairy Farm has been piled high with sand. The night safari is the first nighttime zoo ever built. More than 130 different types of nocturnal creatures can be seen in the open-concept night zoo, which was established in 1994 without any barriers. Yes, it is the only location in Singapore where you may see leopards foraging after dusk. A 50-minute tram ride will take you around the zoo where you may see stately lions devouring their meat feasts, wary mountain deer posing, and, if you're lucky, a loud rhino bathing. At the designated stop, you can exit the tram and choose one of 4 walking trails that will take you up close to flying squirrels, hanging bats, and a few leopards. The tallest indoor waterfall in the world is located at Jewel Changi Airport. The first man-made 30-meter waterfall in Singapore was constructed in 1971 at Jurong Bird Park, but the highest one is currently housed at the state-of-the-art Changi Airport Terminal. The HSBC Rain Vortex, which is 40 meters tall and encircled by the terminal's beautiful indoor gardens, is a stunning sight to behold, especially from 7:30 p.m. until midnight when the hourly light and sound display is taking place. While admiring the primary star post circuit breaker of the Jewel Changi Airport, there are lots of other things to do, eat, and see. A tiger city as opposed to a lion city. So much for the name Singapura, which is simply the Sanskrit term for lion city. Known as Sang Nila Utama, the Prince of Srivijaya found himself shipwrecked on the island and in the sight of a large cat that he mistook for a lion. There is no way a lion could have been discovered unless it was his crew, given Malayan tigers were the island's primary inhabitants at the time. It vanished from the map. In relation to non-existence, the city was once completely erased from the map. Singapore gained notoriety among traders as it changed hands between the Majapahit Empire and Siam's Ayutthaya Kingdom, now Thailand, and established itself as a significant trading port for the Sultanate of Johor. The city was destroyed by Portuguese pirates in 1613 as a result, and it lay abandoned for more than a century until being rebuilt from the ashes by migrants from the surrounding area who set up camp. As a result of Sir Stamford Raffles' establishment of a British trade post in 1819, word of Singapore spread. 6 time zone changes were made. Even though we don't have all 4 seasons, we did once change our clocks for daylight savings time, which was a Western custom. From 1905 until 1932, Singapore was 7 hours ahead of GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. From 1933 to 1941, it advanced 20 minutes, then from 1941 to 1942, it advanced another 10 minutes. Our clocks were advanced by an hour and 30 minutes to coincide with Japan's time zone during the Japanese occupation during World War II. Our clocks went backward after the war and eventually synchronized with Malaysia's in 1982. Which makes more sense if you ask us. At Fort Canning, there was the first botanical garden. Fort Canning Hill's Garden of All Things Flora first opened its doors in 1822, but it only lasted for 7 years. What luck! It was then opened to the public once more in 1836, but was abandoned the following year. Eventually, the Bukit Timah location where the Singapore Botanic Gardens are now were established in 1859. It is recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. The history of Anderson Bridge is morbid. The steely facade of Anderson Bridge, which was built in 1910 and is named after Sir John Anderson, a former governor of the Straits Settlements and High Commissioner for the Federated Malay States, seems like something from a dystopian movie. But it also has a dark past. Soldiers during the Japanese occupation hanged severed heads of criminals and spies around it as a deterrence before it became a part of the renowned F1 Singapore street circuit. Cavenack Bridge, however, is the oldest bridge. After the Duke of Edinburgh's visit, it was initially known as Edinburgh Bridge when it was constructed in 1869. However, it later changed its name to Cavenack in honor of Sir Ophir Cavenack, the final governor of the Straits Settlement chosen by India. At each end of the bridge, which is still used by pedestrians, are the Cavenack coat of arms and the original signage. According to the old police notifications that are still posted, only cattle and horses are permitted to cross at this time. With 18.5 million foreign visitors in 2018, more than 3 times the country's whole population, tourism is a significant business and contributor to Singapore's economy. Second in the Asia-Pacific and the 5th most visited city overall is Singapore. 330. In 2019, tourism made up only around 4% of Singapore's GDP directly, a decrease from 2016, when it made up over 9.9% of Singapore's GDP both directly and indirectly. In total, the industry produced 8.6% of Singapore's employment in 2016. Singapore was ranked as the finest and 6th best travel destinations in the world in 2015 by Lonely Planet and the New York Times, respectively. Singapore boasts a wide variety of languages, faiths, and civilizations despite its tiny size. Singapore does not fit the traditional definition of a nation, according to former Prime Ministers Lee Kuan Yew and Goh Chok Tong. They refer to Singapore as a society in transition and point out that Singaporeans do not all speak the same language, practice the same religion, or follow the same customs. While Singaporeans who speak Chinese as their first language tend to lean more toward Chinese culture, which has ties to Chinese folk religion, Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, those who speak English as their first language are more likely to lean toward Western culture, along with either Christian culture or secularism. Singaporeans that speak Malay tend to favor Malay culture, which is strongly related to Islamic culture. Singaporeans who speak Tamil tend to identify more with Tamil culture, which is largely tied to Hindu culture. The prosperity of Singapore is credited in large part to racial and religious peace, which also contributed to the formation of the Singaporean identity. Most Singaporeans were temporary migrant workers who had no intention of settling down permanently when the country separated from the United Kingdom in 1963. A sizable minority of middle-class, native-born individuals who are descendants of Chinese immigrants from the 15th and 16th centuries are also present. They are referred to as Peranakans or Babanayanya. Most of the laborers' allegiances were to their respective countries of origin, Malaya, China, and India, with the exception of the Peranakans who swore allegiance to Singapore. Following Singapore's independence, the government set out to create a distinctive national character and culture. 467. Singapore is known for being a nanny state. That was for today. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel.